Warning. This podcast contains swear words, both modern and magical, and at least one inappropriate use of the song Taps. Also, there will be spoilers for chapter 12 through 17 of Eragon, book 1 of the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. Listen at your own risk.
Is this a podcast, or is this just fantasy? We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. So join us if you want to nerd out. Time to start the podcast and see. Anyway, here's the show.
Hello, readers. I'm Dane Patterson, the host who doesn't think it's weird even a little bit to name your pets after your dead relatives.
And I'm Jacqui Lanier. And is this a podcast or is this just fantasy? The podcast where the uncles are dead, the storms are cataclysmic, and we're just out here getting swole from our sword training.
It's quick. If you would like to support us, please rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. It really matters for newer shows and would help us get our show in front of new fantasy readers so we could draw a bigger book club, which would be cool. You can also check us out on our social media at Is This Just Fantasy Pod on TikTok or at Just Fantasy Pod on Insta and Twitter.
Yes, and you can also visit us if you just really are trolling around the internet at isthisjustfantasypod.com for our sweet merch, maybe some bonus content if that's a thing we decide to do, and our, again, just extensive archive of episodes.
It's a huge catalog already.
It's crazy.
It's just enormous.
I'm impressed, truly. 2 episodes. Wild.
Are you ready to dig in?
Yeah. So before we get into everything going on in this episode's chapters, and there's a lot, like we're picking up.
It's going.
Yes, it's meaty. I do want to do a quick recap of everything we covered last time. So we started with our newly hatched, but already majestic as fuck dragon.
And deadly.
And deadly. Cannot forget. Forming a lifelong bond with a bean farmer.
As one does.
Yeah. I mean, I do.
It's the only person I've ever connected with was a bean farmer.
Bean farmer.
And
Makes
my
sense.
wife.
I thought your wife was a bean farmer. So Eragon and Saphira mind meld pretty quickly and become integral parts of one another's consciousnesses. Like they just kind of live rent free in the back of each other's minds, which honestly is a huge perk for Eragon.
Yeah, he needs it.
He is emotionally stunted and dealing with some pretty big life changes as his brother, cousin, person, Roran, leaves their small village to make a name for himself as a big city miller.
Yeah, he's got to build that house.
Yes. And with Saphira safely hidden in the local Death Trap mountain range, she starts getting some serious gains. Like, I need to know what kind of pre-workout she's using, because clearly I'm a person who also would like to get swole.
Yeah. You like creatine and supplements.
I don't know what that is. And in the meantime, Eragon establishes that he cannot lie for shit as he pumps Brom for information about dragons. But we don't have nearly enough time to focus on dragon husbandry because there are some sketchy as fuck strangers in town. And they're just asking way too many questions about the stone, hissing at people on the street, paralyzing teens with fear under their gaze.
Yeah, these guys were creepy.
Yes, threatening the butcher Sloane in voices that sound like creeping decay. Actually, that last one is pretty cool because I hate Sloane. So yeah, I'll take that, I guess.
That makes sense. He deserves to be scared.
Yes, and it turns out that fear is totally founded. He's a huge snitch. That guy sucks.
Right away. It didn't sound like it took long. He was just like, oh, I know exactly where that is.
Yes, so the butcher tells the strangers that Eragon had the stone and exactly where they can go to find him, which was great. And in a truly incredible example of failing up, Eragon straight up gets caught eavesdropping while still managing to overhear everything he needs in the conversation between the strangers and Sloane. So, like, gets
Things
caught.
Just work out for young white guys.
That's correct. Good thing Brom is always around, though, to save his ass when he needs to, kind of distracts the strangers so that Eragon can make his getaway. So the race is on to the farm, and he waffles a little bit between whether he wants to warn Garrow first or Saphira, makes the choice to warn Saphira, who then definitely prevents him from warning Garrow that the creepiest people anyone's ever seen are headed straight for the farm.
Yeah.
Saphira has a low-key psychotic break when she hears about the strangers and kidnaps Eragon so they can have their first flight and their first fight. So sweet.
Beautiful.
Yes, Eragon gets pretty beat up flying bareback and sheltering in the spine for the night. And the hits just keep coming when Saphira finally brings him home to the farm. His childhood home is a smoldering mess, and his father-uncle is in super rough shape after being attacked by the strangers. Yeah, Eragon and Saphira struggle to get Garrow back to town, but they are too beat to make it the... How many miles, Dave?
It's 10 miles. It's why they're so struggling to get. It's 10 miles.
It is verifiably a problem at this point. So Eragon collapses on the road as Brom approaches him, thank God, and scene. That's it. That's where we left off. Yes,
dude.
On
a banger.
Yes. Are you ready to get into this next section? How did you feel about this section's read through?
Okay, so I love this section because, again, as a kid, chapter 4 for me was where I was like, finally. Chapter 12 was another, like, we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of action. Things are happening. It's very exciting.
Yeah, there's a ton happening here finally,
Yeah.
which is cool. I feel like just reading this whole book is so, oh my God, I'm a child again. I'm a little baby. Just
because it's slowly
reconnecting with those emotions and that wonder. And
yeah, we like break out, right? It's like you break out of the little city. It's a big world out there.
yes, like as we're leaving Carvajal on the road, it's just like drop after drop of new stuff, world building, probably because we're with
Brom.
totally regular guy.
Low
not
key,
at all suspicious.
Not
Brom.
at all just a totally low key. This guy's clearly nothing but a
Yes.
storyteller.
Yeah,
That's it.
I've always thought so.
But I love the buddy cop we're getting. Like, we're getting a buddy cop movie kind of, I think, out of this with
Yeah.
Brom and Eragon. It's like one of them's like, I'm too old for this shit. And the other one's like young and like angry. Eragon is angry in these
So
set of
angsty, yeah.
chapters. He's just like so mean and only like a way a teen could. You know what I mean?
That's true. I do like the buddy cop of it all. We just need like some more Magnum PI stashes and Hawaiian shirts, and like I'm good.
That's my headcanon for Brom, is he's in a Magnum PI like Hawaiian shirt.
He just is Tom Selleck to me. That would be ideal casting, not gonna lie.
Yeah, that actually would work.
Somebody call up the producers. But Dane, kick us off on our summaries of chapters for this episode, because we left on a cliffhanger, and I would like to know what happens. There's no other way for me to find out unless you tell me.
This is the only way. Chapter 12, Death Watch. The opening of chapter 12 is different from the rest of the series so far. Eragon has a dream that I think is supposed to be prophetic here, or maybe events that are happening somewhere else. It's unclear, but two people board on a boat, and someone yells in anguish to the sky while two dragons fly overhead, which is kind of cool. There's multiple dragons, is Eragon a prophet now, or does he have some type of magical scrying ability? These are the questions I'm asking myself. And like, is this something that's going to happen to him? I don't know. There's a lot going on here. Maybe it's just a dream. I'll keep you posted if I find out what's going on. Yeah. And I think the most important thing to note about this dream is that it's pretty typical fashion. Eragon spends virtually zero time thinking about it
Putting
at all.
in no minutes in the paint. He's
He's like, no problem.
going back to bed.
That's probably fine.
He's tired as hell.
The rest of this first chapter, is pretty brief. Eragon wakes in the care of a pudgy but very talented town healer, Gertrude.
Do you think this is our first not hot lady?
She is described as rotund, so I don't think she's hot because she wasn't curvaceous.
I take that personally, offensively.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't. This
Thanks
is the
a lot,
only word we
Christopher
get.
Paolini.
Okay, well, don't at me, all right? I didn't write this, all right? And learns he has been asleep for 2 days.
Yeah.
In the care of Gertrude.
Not great.
Yeah, so it's been 4 days since he's eaten.
Really not great.
Yeah, and 4 days since Sloane the Butcher snitched. That's kind of where we are on the timeline.
Yeah.
Eragon then goes to the good guy and all around, like, just baller Horst. His home is baller.
He's rich. He's our first rich friend.
Yeah.
I love a rich friend.
And we see that Daddy Uncle Garrow is there. He's very ill.
Yeah.
He hasn't woken. So just, I want to reiterate, Horst is rich now. He lives in a 2-story home.
Crazy.
Has polished and gray wood everything. I imagine his house smells of rich mahogany and many leather-bound books.
Fine leather. Rich mahogany. Thank you, Ron Burgundy.
Yes. Seems like blacksmithing's a good living here.
Yeah.
Horst also has a smoking wife. Back to the hot chicks.
Thank God. Thank
Elaine.
God. I was starting to get worried.
Yeah. She's perfect, as is all the women.
Yes.
She's also teeny and blonde. Yeah. So this is what I'm saying. I think we're learning a little bit about Christopher Paolini's. Anyway.
100%.
Yep. At least 15-year-old Christopher Paolini.
Yeah.
We'll ask Christopher Paolini when we get him in here. Does he still think teenies and ladies?
Yes, this is the way to get him to come on our podcast is to malign his choices of writing style. We'll keep doing that.
Yeah. We know that Horst and Elaine have 2 sons. I'm going to move right along. Albric and Baldor.
Yes, great names.
Yes.
Per usual.
Yeah, and Katrina's a great girlfriend ever. She's helping
Yeah.
Father Uncle Garrow. Eragon comes in. He frets over Garrow.
Yeah.
Ignores Katrina. Lies to Horst about what's happening.
He's a mess.
Keeps the
Dane.
village in the dark.
Yeah.
Just, Albrecht and Baldar are sent on horses to tell Roran, who's
Okay.
off on his Miller journey.
Yes.
That his childhood home burnt down and his dad is currently in critical condition.
That seems like it's going to be a really bad visit from your old bros, Albrecht and Baldor.
Oh, guys, he came to visit?
That's so nice.
So nice. Were we drinking tonight? It's like, nope.
I mean, maybe, but
Well,
not
the
in
way you
celebration.
think. Yeah. The chapter ends with Eragon deciding to crash at Horst's huge place. He's like, I think I'll just go to Horst's.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. He's like, you got more room.
It's a nice ass house.
Yeah.
So
It's a sad chapter.
well, yes. We say laughing constantly.
It's really sad.
Tragic. That leads us to chapter 13, The Madness of Life. Eragon keeps the spooky premonition vibes rolling in this chapter,
Yeah.
at least in the opening. He goes to sleep, sits bolt upright sometime in the wee hours, knowing something terrible's happened. He fumbles his way down the hall to the room where Garrow is staying at Horst, and he's horrified to find it already full of people,
Yeah.
which is probably not good for a sick guy, just
Not
a crowded
not
room.
A good sign.
No, Garrow is lying peacefully on the bed, already dead, with his body dressed for funeral rites. So let's pour one out for our favorite, albeit shadily written, just very confusingly written, father/uncle.
Father, Uncle Garrow.
Yes, lost too soon. Katrina is among the mourners in the room, and as she's saying that she had hoped to call Garrow father
Yeah.
when she married Roran, Eragon is thinking, meanwhile, that he barely has the right to call Garrow father. He really only gets more emo from there.
Yeah, the teen creep is extreme.
Yes, the angst is building.
Yeah.
He's stumbling around, grief-stricken, thinking about the parents he's already lost that he never knew. He's refusing contact from Saphira, so that's a really big emotional shutdown for him. He's already bad with his feelings, but to even keep Saphira out, we know this is bad. And he's like yelling at the gods, like, what god
Yeah.
would do this?
Yeah.
And we fade to black in this chapter as Elaine puts Eragon unwillingly to bed again. Or she's like, sleep it off, my dude.
It's kind of a bummer, and
A bit, yeah.
we really get to learn a little bit about Eragon. I think the way this relationship was kind of presented, I didn't quite understand if it was a father-son relationship. It's clearly that.
Yeah.
He just lost his dad.
Yeah.
But the way it's written is unclear. It's a little opaque in the beginning.
Well, I guess I kind of like that choice here because I think in the way that like loss, grief often do, like it's really crystallizing for Eragon what his relationship to Garrow was. I think maybe it's written that way because Eragon didn't know before, like how
Yeah.
he felt about Garrow.
You don't know what you have until it's gone.
Exactly. And
Gotcha.
like as soon as Katrina makes that comment about being a father,
Yeah.
Eragon's like, oh fuck, I wanted him to be my dad.
He's my
He's
daddy.
barely my dad and now he's gone and I didn't
Aw.
appreciate what I had when I had it.
I gotta say,
That
as
old
a
bag of
dad,
bones.
this like starts to get you more. isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm like, so sad.
Oh.
That takes us though to a very cool chapter.
Yeah.
Chapter 14, A Writer's Blade. This chapter is longer than normal. It's our longest chapter, I think.
Yeah, so far?
It's a chunky one.
Okay.
Hot off the death of Daddy Uncle, the story becomes a revenge story.
You
Hell
love-
yeah, I love a good revenge story. We're here, it's revenge. Sapphire, Saphira, and Eragon. I'm all worked up.
Yes. way
Revenge
too
has got me
excited.
going.
I don't want anybody to think about what that means about Dane as a person, but he's fine. Everything's fine.
Even keel.
Great.
Saphira and Eragon basically vow to find these like two strangers and bring them down, bring them to justice. It's a 180 from 4 days ago for Saphira, but I'm all about it. Eragon for sure gets the sense that Horst thinks Eragon's made up a story here.
Yeah.
And that's because Eragon made up a story and is bad at lying.
Yeah.
Just horrible at it.
And Horst clearly is good at everything.
He's like the best character here. So Eragon sneaks out of the house, steals some leather, and while he's stealing like stuff, he's like, I gotta fuck over Sloane.
Yeah.
And he goes
if
to
I'm gonna be
steal.
a thief, if I'm just gonna commit to a life of crime on the road.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna steal from the dick in town.
From that guy.
Yeah, so he steals, and it's so good. And he's ready to go, and boom, who is there but Brom is there waiting for him. All packed and ready to go on the trip with a sword on his belt and looking like the old dude was like ready, like already in a fight.
Yeah, he's like a little beat up, but he is packed for a trip, which... How do you know?
And, we know what Eragon does. He tries another great lie here. And, of course, it works, and Brom leaves.
Yeah.
Nope. Brom shuts that down. And he's like, dude, I know that you have a dragon.
Out of nowhere. Like, first thing he says.
Yeah.
He's like, I know you hatched a dragon.
You had some dragon, essentially.
We gotta go.
Because I guess the palm, like the silver palm tattoo, it's called the Getaway Ignacia.
Is that also what you call your tattoos?
Yes, they're all Getaway Ignacias. And I guess that's the oval mark is what it's called.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he basically knows. Eragon freaks out. He tells like Saphira to come pick him up. He's like, come pick me up.
Mom, can you pick me up? I'm scared.
He basically does. Like immediately in his mind, he's like, Saphira, hurry. And she says she won't until he's talked through it with Brom.
Yeah. Brom goes a little absent for a second before this happens.
Yeah.
Like he figures out that Eragon's a writer, drops that knowledge on Eragon, and then it's described as Brom like going kind of blank in the face and like moving his lips silently, and you're like,
what are you doing, dude?
Are you okay? I know you're old. Is everything like good?
Eragon just runs.
Yeah. And then that's right after that, Saphira clearly has spoken with Brom.
Yes, because she says because of the slaughter at Doru Ariba.
Yeah, that Eragon should listen to Brom because of the slaughter.
And I have to say, if someone was like, if you were just like, hey, I can't go to that party because of the slaughter at Dora Ariba, I'd be like, well, I need more context for what, is everything okay?
Definitely not, no.
Yeah, so we learned actually, though, from Brom in chapter 6 that Dora Ariba was the city in Vrowengard that the writers called home. So we do know that. So big deal. Things are happening. Yes. All right. No idea what is happening, but things are happening.
Okay.
Eragon starts freaking out. His palms are sweaty. It's mom spaghetti situation. Eventually, Eragon tells Brom his plan. He's going to get healthy and then track down and kill the strangers.
Okay.
Brom wants to come, and Eragon just gives up and says he can because I think he's just tired of arguing with Brom.
Yeah.
Brom tells Eragon that he's already sent a letter to his cousin brother Roran, so Brom is already really
Brom already
helpful.
knew he was going. He's like, come hell or high water, I'm gonna follow this kid out of town.
I'm gonna
It's
leave.
Revenge time, baby.
Yes. Eragon takes Brom the 10 miles.
You really hate that.
I hate that. Injured without being followed by the active search party now trying to find Eragon.
Well, okay. In their defense, it's too far for a search party. One,
it's 10 miles.
10 miles. It's too far. I hate it. And also, if it were me, I would never assume a grief-stricken teen is going to go like back to the site of the slaughter of the man who just died.
That's fair.
Like, it's kind of an unhinged thing to do in this like quaint, beautiful little village.
But here's my thing. It's got to be like one road out.
Of course, yeah.
So like all I'm saying is like for
Block
10
the
miles, they're just like there. So if you just looked down the road.
Okay, D&D Dane.
Anyway.
We get it.
Anyway, then
just set a sentry on the road. Okay,
Brom meets Saphira. It's actually very cool.
Oh yeah, in person.
Yeah, and there's this exchange I want to read because it stood out to me. Brom turned to him and asked in an undertone, "What's her name?" Saphira. A peculiar expression crossed Brom's face. He ground the butt of his staff into the earth with such force his knuckles turned white. Of all the names you gave me, it was the only one she liked. I think it fits, Eragon added. Fit it does, said Brom. There was something in his voice Eragon could not identify. Was it loss, wonder, fear, envy? He was not sure. So I'm only reading that because it seems there's like a lot of, there's like a point here because probably he's like writing about something here. So I don't know what Brom is feeling, but Brom knows a lot about dragons. So I'll leave it there. It's probably just storyteller stuff.
Yeah,
I wouldn't understand.
That makes sense. You're definitely not a storyteller.
No,
I tell you that all the time.
Yeah. From there, Eragon grabs his bow and he grabs some personal items that he can salvage from the wreckage of his childhood home and life and takes Brom deeper into the forest to a secret spot he made as a kid.
I love that. Like, hey, you want to come see my fort?
Yeah, he has like a fort.
Yeah.
They sit down and very casually, Brom pulls out a magic fucking sword.
Yes.
Like just casually.
The way everybody has a magic sword. I have a magic sword.
He claims like he took it off of a person adventuring to get it. And Brom is just full on like gives it to Eragon. He's like, you should have this.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't enough from this old coot, he also knows like who and more importantly what the strangers are. Mm-hmm. He explains that they are Razak and that they are very, very dangerous creatures. And oh yeah, it looks like I was fighting them off. So Brom had snuck around the Razak's camp and then fought them away. Like they attacked him and he fought them off. So
before he comes to meet Eragon.
That's why he's beat up. Before he comes to, that's what he reveals here. Before he comes to Eragon.
That guy doesn't fuck around.
Who is this guy? All right.
There's no way to know, Dane.
Eragon calls basically bullshit on Brom at this point, and Brom will only say that he's a storyteller.
Yeah.
Duh. But also that he doesn't have to tell Eragon everything all the time. That like he's a friend, they're here, and it's just chill. And that he'll explain in his own time.
Is it just chill?
It's not. It's
No.
not chill. We're
Brom's
not chill,
like,
Brom.
I'll answer your questions. And then like 5 questions later, he's like, I don't have to tell you anything. And I don't owe you shit, kid.
I don't owe you anything.
Why don't you sit down?
As a kid, were you like, what is going on? Because I remember being like, who is this guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know. I guess I kind of remember having some inklings maybe about it the whole time I read. I was like, but I just thought, we're going to get something here. I didn't know what, but I was like, absolutely, he's going to be like God here in this story soon. So I do remember thinking that, but the curiosity is what kills me. It's what keeps me reading until I have not slept in 3 days and normal people stuff.
The deep dive today will be about Brom. Just because over the last like 17 chapters, we have enough information that if I put it all together, it's like pretty staggering.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
That makes sense. So I think that takes us to our next chapter, 15, entitled Saddle Making. Eragon wakes up the next morning in this chapter, like remembering all over again that Garros died, which that's so real to me. Like, I think it's a good piece of writing here, especially for somebody that young to kind of realize that's a pretty universal experience. I have totally had that happened to me after something tragic happens, where every day for a couple weeks you wake up having to like remember it all over again, relive it all over again. Like, it just sucks. So I really felt for Eragon here. I think that's a well done little nugget. So after a good cry and some breakfast, which I'm glad Eragon has become
We've all
comfortable
had those mornings.
with what crying is by this point. He no longer thinks he's going, am I going blind? Eragon tells Brom that he wants to make a saddle for Saphira from that leather that he stole.
Yeah.
And Brom happens to know a lot about dragon saddlecraft and says he can make a lighter, faster, more agile version of a dragon saddle from what they have. So not only does he know how to make a saddle, he knows about several different types. Normal.
Storytellers.
We love that. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Tom Cruise knows how to make horse saddles. I'm pretty sure.
Yes. So he's starting. I mean, Tom Cruise can do anything, right?
It's true. If you're listening to Tom Cruise, you could do anything.
You need our encouragement, I think, Tom Cruise.
You can do it, Tom Cruise.
We've got your back, and we've always believed in you. This is a Tom Cruise positive podcast. But like as Brom's going through and making this saddle, he's teaching Eragon as he goes, and the result is a pretty goddamn nice saddle.
It's dope.
It'll at least keep your thighs intact, I think, which is the point. Saphira wants to try it out right away, like get up in the air, but Eragon's
kind of nice. We're getting some characterization here.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
She's really excited. Eragon, however, is a little hesitant after all the thigh shredding first, and the bout of motion sickness. He's not sure if he's kicked that dragon on his back yet.
Is he gonna be able to be a dragon rider?
Dude, I don't know. Like,
he's like, we can go, but I need Dramamine before we.
All I can think of is like, could you imagine your wife, my best friend Dylan, having to do this? Like, she's one of the more motion sick people I've ever met.
Yeah.
She once got motion sick on a stationary boat just with the projection of storm around us.
It did feel real. I'll give her that.
It did feel, it was pretty cool.
But it was pretty funny.
But Could you imagine? She would never kick that.
No, she'd just be like,
She'd just be
we're
horrified every time.
grounded dragon
ground
duo.
strike
We're
team.
ground strike team.
Yes, exactly. But they don't go flying. They continue walking through the woods. And over dinner that night, which is described as tasting good. So like, really, what the hell can't Brom do? Like, he's a great cook.
Yeah.
Brom apologizes to Eragon over dinner, which is nice, about the way everything went down in Carvajal. And Eragon's still a little bit pissed at Brom for kind of knowing what the deal was and not warning everybody every time.
Yeah, because Brom tells him, I knew what they were.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
knew it
why
was
I was
dangerous.
sneaking around. Yeah, and he knew what Eragon was.
Yeah.
So it's like,
but they were both kind of playing this game of chicken, although they didn't necessarily know it. Of like, okay, I know you have a dragon, and like, for Eragon, he's like, I can't ask for help. So they're both keeping their secrets, and obviously that does them very dirty in this situation. Well, they're fine. Does Garrow very dirty in this situation?
Yeah, they all came out of it totally okay. Garrow though is dead.
It's not great.
Yeah.
But they kind of work through it, at least to the point where they're able to flesh out their plan to track the Razak that night. And Brom convinces Eragon that they'll both need to travel by horseback to stay together. Saphir is not strong enough to fly both of them. And Brom ends the night with a pretty stirring pep talk about how the Razak will be backed and protected by the Empire wherever they go. And knowing Eragon's evading capture is going to make the insane murder wizard king increasingly desperate. So basically they're fucked.
Yeah, I found it a weird insight about Gabatorix. They're fucked, but also like we learned that these boogeymen essentially
work for
our Emperor Gal.
Yeah, you love that guy. You can't believe that he would employ such monstrous creatures.
I don't believe this propaganda.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's
Varden
right.
Propaganda
That's
right here.
I forget.
That's the terrorism speaking.
Yes. So basically, it's not looking great for them. I like that that's Brom's idea of encouragement.
Right.
To drift off to a peaceful night's sleep.
Before you go to bed, just know
everything's...
the most powerful people will be helping them. Sleep tight.
And that guy probably wants you dead.
Yeah. Boops his nose. Boop.
Night, night. Yeah, so not great. Best get some sleep. Just forget about that for a minute and figure out the next day where they're going to steal totally buy legally with Brom's money, some horses. So where are they headed next?
They're headed to Therinsford, or Therinsfoot, or
Therinsford?
It's Therinsford. That's what it is.
You're really making a meal. Therinsford.
Chapter 16, Therinsford. Is that how we're saying it now?
Therinsford.
I am now Therinsford.
I think.
Now you've got me confused.
There's no way to know.
Anyway, Brom and Eragon hit the open road with Saphira flying high enough to escape notice. While they walk, Eragon gets a total crash course on Dragon 101 from Brom. He explains how and when dragons mate and hatch, eating habits of dragons, dragon pharmaceuticals, where dragons are the most vulnerable. It's their bellies and armpits.
Oh,
yep.
That's kind of cute.
That it's rude to speak to a rider's dragon without telling the rider first. And also some, flying combat information. So, all just really well-known dragon stuff. It's official right now, today, episode 3.
Nailed it.
Brom Watch 2023 happens.
Okay.
Who is Brom?
We got to know. We got to find out. So you're officially on watch.
I'm
You're
on watch
notice.
now. Watch out, Brom. I'm looking.
Great.
All right.
I'm sure that guy, very competent, is terrified of you, Dane.
You might
I'm
know
glad you
dragon
warned him.
facts, but I know how to podcast.
Incredible.
Kind of. That night, Brom started training Eragon in the art of the story. I mean sword.
Oh.
Not story.
No.
The art of the sword.
But yeah, why wouldn't a storyteller know that?
Yeah, because it's important that he, is going hard on Eragon and actually knocks Eragon out during their first sparring session.
Is that a second head wound in the last, week or so?
I mean, he wakes him with water.
After he was unconscious for 2 whole days at Gertrude's house.
I think he's fine.
We're just doing another light head trauma.
It's fine. He's young.
I'm not a doctor, but I don't think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, Eragon is still tired when he wakes. I can't tell if it's the
I really
workout.
think that's a bad sign.
The next day, they continue their trip, and by the afternoon, they reach Therinsford.
You could do it.
I could do it. Therinsford.
Yeah.
There it is.
Nailed it.
Therinsford.
Perfect.
That's what I've always said. We're editing that in. But not before they are extorted by a shady character at the bridge.
Oh, a literal troll, if you will.
Yes, he wants them. They can't cross until they pay. Brom handles it in style.
Okay.
He like pays the crazy amount and says thank you. He like stops Eragon from freaking out. And then he robs the man as he passes.
Eek.
So dope. Badass, Brom. Badass.
I'm glad you like that.
Yeah. They find 2 horses in Therinford. Look at that. There's some horse haggling going on from Brom at this point with a stable master for a strong white horse named Snowfire.
Okay.
And like no haggling at all for Brom's horse that he bought, Eragon.
Oh.
So he doesn't haggle at all for.
No, he's like, just give me whatever's cheapest.
Give me the like Honda Civic or like whatever, you know. Give me your Corolla, your Camry of horses.
I mean,
I want that Porsche in the back. That's in
Brom's
white.
defense, for a 16-year-old, that's the move. There's nothing worse than a 16-year-old in a brand new BMW.
That's true. He gets him a beater horse.
Yeah, it's incredible. He should.
You know, and
poor
Eragon
horse. Justice for the horse.
The horse, right? So Eragon does what we all do when we name our pets. You know, he names the boring small horse Caddock.
Yeah, that's a good horse name.
Yeah, it's after his grandpa.
What?
Yeah. He named his horse
after a human man?
after his human grandfather.
That's a little weirder.
He's riding
It'd be weird if I named my dog Richard.
Right? If my dog was named like Jerry.
I mean, no shade to anybody who has named their
Jerry
dogs Richard or Jerry, but
those are great dog names.
But it's weird if your grandpa is also named Richard or Jerry.
That does complicate it.
I don't love it.
This is my other dog, Joan.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
Yeah. Eragon also gets some more powers here. We
Okay.
actually get an insight. He can like mind talk or mind soothe Caddock the horse.
Oh, okay.
So like he tries to touch Caddock. Caddock like moves his head away, and Eragon like instinctively tries to comfort it, like he comforts Saphira.
Oh,
And it works.
yeah. Now that his mind is like broken, I think it's described early on as, you know, like breaking the boundaries of his own consciousness. And like,
Yeah.
for a second, when it very first happens, he's like, oh my God, I might get lost out here, like with nothing to hem me in.
Yeah.
And so now it's kind of having the side effect that he's just instinctively reaching for other conscious beings around him.
That must be wild.
Yeah.
It must feel like a wild experience. I don't know. I always like try to imagine what that would be like as a kid. Did you ever like as a kid try to do some of these things in these books? Be like, what would that feel like?
Oh, interesting. I'm sure that I did.
Yeah.
I was thinking probably not as much as you was I curious about that. And that's why one of us has done many more drugs than the other one.
There's no way to know who that is, though. They travel from this place after Brom gets his cool horse. Snowfire, not named after his grandpa.
No, with a definitely normal horse name. Kind of a badass horse name.
Or Brom's. Well, he didn't name the horse. Anyway, they travel from this place, passing an old outpost, which I thought was interesting. So it was an old outpost from the founding of the Dragon Riders.
Yeah.
It turns out that this is where the leader Vrail was killed, that we learned about when he was kicked in the nuts.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, this is where he was betrayed by a good old Gal, our beloved and just ruler in Alagasia. I think that he probably didn't even betray him. It's probably like a disagreement. Vrail is probably the aggressor, if we're really thinking about it. Anyway, so this is the post where the last Dragon Rider got kicked in the nuts. And during the war, after Vrail died, here this outpost was known by the surviving riders as the Place of Sorrows.
Ominous.
Yes, before they too were killed by Gabatorks. He was very
Allegedly.
He was efficient at that. Allegedly. Probably. Again, propaganda. That night, Brom and Eragon spar again. Eragon is very dubious of learning the sword. He's like a total angsty teenager here. Although it might be a little fair, though, as the night before he was clubbed in the head and knocked out. So
that is not good for your brain.
No.
It just isn't. It can't be. But no time to dwell on some, you know, light to moderate head trauma.
No.
They need to keep it moving, Dane, for revenge.
We got a revenge plot that we need to get back to.
Yes, gotta wrap that shit up. So that takes us to chapter 17 called Thunder Roar and Lightning Crackle. We start this chapter with the final descent out of the spine and onto Alagasia's sweeping plains. They pick up the Rozak trail at a fork in the road, and Brom decides that the creatures must have gone on to Yazwak, which is a punishing 4-day ride across this like dry, desolate plains area. The Nebraska of Alagasia, if you will.
Nebraska.
Eragon has a brand new nemesis here. So not, monstrous eldritch horrors, not motion sickness, not crying. It's the wind.
Oh.
It's the wind. And that's fair. I also hate the wind.
Not a fan.
No.
Ruins my hair.
Yes, you would be preternaturally concerned about that. He's going a little nuts. He's cracking up a little bit in all the wind. It's so bad that he can't get the fire going on their first night. And our guy is a certified Eagle Scout. So you know it's got to be pretty bad.
He spends weeks out in the forest alone, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not like if I couldn't start a fire, that would be.
I would pay money to kind of see you out in the middle
To
of the
actually start a fire?
with a rock.
Yes, it would be more of a shock if I could start a fire. For Eragon, it's exactly the opposite of that. So luckily, Brom, when he tries his hand at getting the fire going, after a few strikes of the flint and a couple choice swear words that he spits out unthinkingly.
Brizinger.
Yeah, cool swear.
Yeah.
He's able to get their dinner cooking, thank God, because he's the great cook here.
Yes.
And things keep pretty quiet as they travel across the range for the next couple days until they're confronted by an insane storm. The description of this is bonkers.
It's pretty scary.
Yes, it could just be that I'm too much of a California girl, but the storm sounds bad. I hate it. You give me I think it's thunderheads that arch into the sky like a cathedral, wind almost strong enough to break Saphira's wings, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Mile-high bolts of lightning making brush fires that only get put out by the icy rain. Absolutely fuck that.
There's a lot of tension here.
Yeah.
This is just a natural obstacle, so to speak. And I was riveted, and I've read this we've reread this.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this
the
is
majesty
intense.
of Mother Nature. Yeah. She's a cruel and exacting mistress.
You can be a dragon, but you can still be brought down by Mother Nature. Yeah.
That's correct. And I'm just saying, I'll keep my 73 in sunny San Diego any fucking day. I do not like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So they're so exhausted from weathering this storm. We end this episode section with everybody passing out cold in camp as the storm finally dies down. And that's where our chapters end. I do want to get again into a little analysis.
Analysis.
It's time for analysis.
Some of the themes that I kind of picked up. So reading this section, I got a lot of pretty clear tie-ins to the theme of expanding horizons. We're making a lot of progress. I think we talked about it a little bit in our, in what we were excited about, that we're really making progress finally, even just geographically during these chapters. Christopher Paolini, to me, seems to be driving home the point that Eragon's whole worldview is kind of exploding right now. Right from the jump, truly first paragraph of this section, we get Eragon's first brushes with symbolic dreams and premonitions. That's very different than what we've read so far. As readers, we've seen some magic and fantastical elements. But aside from the mind meld, it hasn't been like this. This is the first just supernatural experience that Eragon's having. And it's a big shift in what we know about what his powers are. If he can just predict the future.
It's if he's getting prophetic dreams and he can talk to other animals.
Yeah.
Now it's what else is
we
there?
need to know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I think another huge tie into this expanding horizons idea is Garrow's death. It's obviously huge for Eragon. Losing a parent is so often talked about and written about.
Yeah. Just look at all those Disney orphans.
For real. They love an orphan over there.
Yeah.
But I think because it's such a unifying experience that most people are going to have, and it really is a fundamental shift in the way a person experiences the world. And I feel like losing this father figure is really forcing Eragon to expand his concept of what it means to be alive, what it means to suffer loss and just be a person trying to figure it out. For fuck's sake, the name of the chapter that Garrow dies in is called The Madness of Life. And in the pages immediately following Garrow's death, we see Eragon for the first time really confront his emotions.
Yeah.
Truly, maybe the first time in his life.
Yeah.
He's thinking about the way he's feeling, not just trying to push it down and ignore
Not go to
it.
bed.
Yes. So he's trying to confront this anger and grief, work through it, take decisive action.
Revenge, baby!
Yes.
He's definitely
finally
going for
he's
that.
doing something. And I think even our sweet training montage in this set of chapters is a good example of expanding horizons, because when you think about it, it's the first experience Eragon's ever had with any type of combat. He obviously hunts, but not like this. And it's a little funny to watch him slowly wrap around, like, his brain around why he may need to know how to fight. Like, he's confronting even that on a level that shows he's thinking about it, which I like.
Yeah.
Like, he's, I think, just realizing that he's set his, quote, iron will on an epic quest.
It's the bean farmer to dragon rider thing here,
Exactly,
right?
yeah. And we're also watching Eragon's first interactions in the wider world, not just in his small village. And he's clearly out of his depth as Brom cuts the bridge guy's purse and haggles with the horse trader in Therinsford. Like, he's catching up, but he's kind of overawed by Brom. He's like, wow, I didn't know you could do all that stuff.
You could just do that?
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I would be too. Brom's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a cool guy.
That's fair. You love him.
I love a good Brom.
Yes. So I think, too, just to add to all of this, he's even expanding his horizons and pushing at the boundaries, we talked about it a little bit, of his own consciousness, which is a wild concept.
Yeah.
And we see him make contact with Caddock, named after his grandpa. Cannot get over that.
Yeah, and Brom, doesn't Brom say here that, like, the writers, this is, like, really early? Normally that it took, like, writers years before they developed
the ability to, like, touch
other animals with their mind.
Yeah, I think he does.
Yeah, very extraordinary. Like, Eragon we're getting is also extraordinary already.
Yes, even for a writer.
Yes.
Yes, I do like that. And I think the most literal example of this expanding horizons idea is towards the end of the section as they're finally making their way out of the spine. I'm going to read it just because it could not be more literal. It's just there in the text, Dane. He said, it says, Eragon gasped. On either side were mountains, but below them stretched a huge plain that extended to the distant horizon and fused into the sky. And then it goes on to say, it unnerved Eragon how flat everything was. The plains were unbroken by hummocks or mounds. He'd lived his entire life surrounded by mountains and hills. Without them, he felt exposed and vulnerable, like a mouse under an eagle's keen eye. We're literally going to the horizon, the physical horizon.
Actual physical horizon.
I think this is really a strength of Christopher Paolini's writing things in here with the settings. He's so good with a landscape description. Yeah. And writing it in here to kind of reinforce this theme is such a cool choice. So I like that we're going to the horizon and beyond, as Buzz Lightyear would say, and seeing how Eragon's being forced to grow up just by virtue of traveling so far from home.
Yeah, it's like the Samwise Gamgee stopping I've never been further. We're getting like that expanding. Once you leave, we all do this in college and stuff. Like, once you leave, the world seems different.
Yes.
And we get cool training montages.
Yes,
we love training montages.
Yes, I definitely wanted to talk a little bit about that too, just as kind of a trope that's in a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think, obviously you have your Rockies, your Star Warses, your Mulans of the world, Nevernight, Dane's favorite film guy, film school over here, Devil Wears Prada.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, there's a training montage in there.
One time.
Well, I mean, it's a good movie. I like it.
I'm
into
too.
It. Her fashion glow up.
I do like it. Yeah.
I mean, what's a glow up if not a training montage? If we're on Joseph Campbell's hero's journey here in this book, and you talk about in the haters segment, we're always on Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Yeah.
This is the part where we've really left our old life behind, enter like what he calls the belly of the whale.
Okay.
We're just about to embark on training. So we got a little taste of it here. Maybe too much of a spoiler to say Eragon's going to need to continue training. Believe it or not, he has not reached his peak yet.
You don't think he could just take on the boogeyman?
I don't.
Already?
No, I don't. I think he needs a little more time in the oven, Dane. But I know we've covered a lot of ground and even more lore in this set of chapters, which was fun. Like we've talked about, so much world building. So I want you to break down a couple of the topics you prepped for your deep dive. What is in that deep dive, Dane?
Deep dive.
Yes, it's deep dive time. I think it's clear at this point in the story that Brom is totally more than he seems. I want to talk about Brom. So I thought it might be nice to break down everything we've learned so far to this point, because he's becoming an important player in the story. So we know that at some point Brom went on an adventure to get a dragon rider's red sword, the one he gave Eragon. He also noted that the wielder of the sword was a skilled and deadly swordsman, and greatly feared. But Brom just took it, I guess. So like.
Probably just asked him nicely for it, the way a
Classic.
storyteller would.
You know, you hear all the time that Steven Spielberg is just like also amazing at martial arts. It's like a classic refrain.
Hey, you don't know that he's not. Don't malign the good name of Steven Spielberg.
I know. Why
you
am I picking
asshole.
a fight with like all of these
know.
like famous?
I'm worried about you on the internet, dude. It's not going to go well.
Don't at me. Also, Brom has several important skills. They've shown up several times at this point. First, he saves Eragon from the Razak when he first meets him in Caraval. Brom then went to sneak on the Razak because he knew they had to like figure the egg out. So he was already searching for them.
Okay.
Then Brom showed up and was waiting, fully packed and ready to go when Eragon was ready to go.
That's true.
Yeah. And then, okay, so then...
Maybe he just keeps a go bag. Maybe he's like a bug out apocalypse guy.
But that means that he knew all of those things, like
Yeah.
planned them, was investigating, right? Then, now we have Brom is good at sleight of hand, also good at haggling, right? He literally cuts the purse from the bridge troll guy. And then without pissing off the man who wants to like breed Snowfire, he gets that guy to just like make a deal with him.
Yes, his interpersonal skills, I would say, are definitely above average.
Yeah. Then like we also get to learn he knows how to judge good horse flesh.
Disgusting.
Right. He knew that Snowfire was solid and he knew the other horse wasn't.
Yeah.
And like, I just think that's a skill that is also telling us a little something about Brom. I don't know how many people like know.
Do you want to be a judge of good horse flesh, Dane?
It's one of my skills. I can judge good horse.
I know. You're a horse girl. I didn't
no.
realize our whole lives growing up.
No, that we're cutting out. I am not a horse girl. All right.
She's a horse girl, everybody. She loves it. Her Frank binders.
I say nay.
And
I
the
say
doodles. There's like pink heart erasers on the
my
top
God.
of all the pencils while she draws her horses. I didn't realize it. Also, I just picked up on I say nay. God damn it.
Come on,
I'm
man.
So slow.
That was solid.
I was busy just
Yeah.
painting the picture of you as a horse girl in my mind.
We all appreciate it.
You're all welcome.
So we also know that Brom knows how to sword fight and is confident and like good enough to begin teaching Eragon how to sword fight each night. Which also reminds me again to bring up that he fought the Razak and survived.
Yeah.
He knows not only the history of the riders, but knowledge about how they were formed, a list of dragon names. He knows the name of the silver palm on the hand, the Gebra Ignazia. He knows the biology and care of dragons. He knows skills that go along with, like making a saddle. And more importantly, he knows how fast dragon riders learn their special mind magic, which I
Yeah.
feel like is particularly secret. Like, I don't know. I just feel like that's not something you can easily visualize, or I feel like would be, you know what I'm saying? It seems like
why you would know about the way the riders were typically trained.
Yeah, it
when
seems-
they've been gone for
a long time.
Timeline, Dane.
I think it's 100
Timeline check,
years.
100 years
Yeah.
since Gal allegedly genocided all the dragons and their riders.
We don't have proof.
Yes.
Yeah. Show
And
me the proof.
You need proof.
Were there
for it.
even dragons to
You
be
need proof to
killed?
call a genocide. You definitely can't be
This is
investigating
horrible.
that
Yeah.
without
Well, now I feel
solid
bad.
proof.
Yeah.
You should.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
But we also know, he also knows a lot about King Galbatorix.
Mm-hmm.
He knows not only the taboo history of that he told during the Winter Festival.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But he also knows about the Razak henchmen, which we did not know about until Brom tells us. And finally, and kind of weirdly, he had the ability and also just knew how to talk to Saphira. Like, if you think about it in the timeline, he talked to her before he saw her.
Yeah.
That seems to me like, is that self-taught? Does he learn that
interesting.
somewhere?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Because he sees her and that's a specific moment. Anyway, so obviously the storyteller jokes end here, Brom.
Yeah,
I hope you enjoyed these past 3 episodes.
Yeah, we can bury that joke right along with Garrow.
Oh, yep. It was just as important to our episodes, I think, as Garrow.
Oh, savage, Dane.
Maybe more.
Oh, poor Garrow.
It's not my fault. Christopher Paolini wrote Garrow so weird. But okay, on a serious note, we know Brom is a talented and good mentor for Eragon at this point. But who is he? Is he an old writer? I have some other thoughts. Is he Galbatorix's like brother cousin, like the lesser known Fred?
You think he's Gal's roaring?
Yeah, he's the Fred Claus of the Empire.
Oh God,
is what I'm thinking. Is he working for the Empire or the rebel evil Varden group,
There's no way to know.
or both? Is he an inside? Is it an inside job?
Ooh, I love double agent. That's fun.
Is he the hidden king lying low in Carvajal? Is this Galbatorix? Is Brom actually Galbatorix in disguise?
Interesting.
And he just pulls off a mask, you know what I mean?
Ooh, and then another mask under it.
Yeah.
And then another mask under
I
that.
would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling dragons. And then maybe is he like Eragon from a different timeline? Is this a Looper plot situation that we have going on? Is he Bruce Willis and like he's come back? You know,
Now, that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just put the kibosh on that. That's wild, Dane.
we the reader don't know yet.
No, we
but
don't.
I think he's a seriously powerful man
Yes.
who knows what's up, and I'm glad Eragon found him.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
That's a really nice way to end that, right?
Yeah.
So
Nicer than I would have expected from you, to be honest.
hey, speaking of nice, we're gonna turn to what the haters are saying,
Yes.
which is not nice.
No.
Actually, you should do your research, huh? Have you even read it? How you pronounce it?
What are the haters saying?
No, there is an index in the back, right?
This is really derivative.
Just a copycat.
Bitter, growing bitter in your old age. You need to know what the haters are saying.
I feel like me and Brom have a certain disposition that we're sharing as I get older.
I can see that. Brom's kind of your kind of star.
Yeah, that's where I'm aiming for. One day I'll be good at judging horse flesh and beating 15-year-olds into unconsciousness.
I hope not.
That's all I
older
know of Brom.
Your angel baby son gets. I hope that is not true. That's a mess.
No. So this week I just want to touch on something a little different than our first two episodes. So all the hate mail we have been receiving about both the Star Wars and the Lord of the Rings stuff, all those fans, you can just stop jamming our email this week.
For how much Dane clearly hates both of those properties.
Yes. Oh
Not
my gosh.
great, everyone.
I want to take a moment to talk about learning martial arts.
Okay.
It's the perfect time to talk about this because Eragon is just learning how to like use the sword.
Yeah.
So both from a historical and modern perspective, universally, everyone basically like around the world agree that learning any form of martial arts takes a long time.
Yeah,
So especially if you're going to be very good at it, like in practice.
that makes sense.
So there's something both fictional in TV and film as well as written in fiction and comics. They do this poorly because it makes sense. No one is reading or watching a story wants to watch, nor is there time to show thousands and thousands of hours of the main character.
Sucking at something.
Yes, like suck, practice, fail
That's
over
a
and
good
over
point,
again. Yeah, because like, so they're basically masters after a few fights, or like
Yeah.
always naturally good.
Yes.
Especially when these characters are most often supposed to be the best, right? They're the
I don't
pinnacle.
know why you think that's not realistic. I often am very naturally good at things I try for the first time.
You know what? It's funny.
I live a charmed life.
You annoyingly are really good
No.
at stuff.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
No. Gotta take it back.
Yeah, actually, I don't
No,
want
do
that.
not do not be nice to me. Walk it back.
Oh,
Walk
sorry.
it back.
Does that feel uncomfortable?
Yes, I hate it.
Oh. So as a personal aside, I recently took up boxing.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And I'm taught privately and I'm only telling this by a real light heavyweight. Like he quit professional boxing, but he has like fights under his belt that you can see. I spar 2 times a week on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I go 3 or 4 times a week. And I've been doing it for like 8 months. And like I've been told that I am moderately learning it pretty fast. Like the technique side of it.
Yeah.
I'm still garbage. Like,
no.
No, not because I'm like horrible or at it. It's just like I'm learning.
Yeah.
And like the art of boxing is an art.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. And when people start actually punching you in the face,
Oh.
you know, you tend to react in certain ways, right?
I would not know.
Yeah.
I know this face looks punchable, Dane, but it's never been punched. And I don't intend on it being punched at any time.
Yeah, well, I guess my point, whether you have a punchable face or not, is that like you're gonna be like bad, right,
Yeah.
for a while. So my point is that swordsmen in the real world took years and years and often decades of time to learn how to use their weapons, and it's something that fantasy, especially for very reasonable and entertainment reasons, speeds over and skips.
Yeah, almost like it's a little bit of a trope at this point, but it's still something the haters on
They
Eragon bring
hate.
up.
Yes, they hate it, and they talk about the timeline a lot. And the thing is like, yeah,
Sure.
we'll get there, especially in the later books. But like, and I get where they're coming from. And yes, you have a point, haters. Like I said, we like to be honest. But I don't think this ruins the story at all for me.
No, it's one of those things that like in the same way when a book is adapted to a movie, I kind of go immediately into the mindset of, okay, I understand why they'd cut this scene or this
Yes.
character. I just am very forgiving, I think, about people on creative endeavors, but I'm like, okay, I could see why we're doing this or that for entertainment value. This feels very much like that to me. Like, oh, I get it. Please don't show me his like months and months and months of like mediocrity.
Yeah.
Either be really bad or really good, nothing in between.
And so far, Eragon's not even that good. He got knocked out by an old guy. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's not even like an issue now, but I just think it's something to keep in mind that we hear you haters. We're listening. We're talking about it. But on this, I say we are done.
We don't love it.
We don't like it.
I was about to say I'm surprised that you seem to know so much about sword training, but when I really think about it, I always knew you were a sword bro.
Oh my God. I know,
that always was very clear to me about you.
well, I'm not a katana, hanging in my house guy.
What kind of sword is hanging in your house, Dane? Isn't there a sword down there
Well,
in your basement?
Well, yeah, there's swords.
Is it a katana?
It is. Well, yeah.
What a
there's
weird
a
thing to say.
wakizashi as well, but they're like not
I've
hanging.
never heard that collection of syllables together in my life. That's my point about you being a sword bro.
Anyway, what did you think about?
Oh, you want to wrap up now? That
Yeah.
makes sense.
What did you think about today's episode? Like, what did you think about this section? How are you feeling about the podcast?
Yes, I think for me, like this world building, this expansion, this like 0 to 100, like finally we made it out of that tiny ass village. Like
Right.
I love it. I'm really excited. We're off. We have a mission. We have a purpose.
Right.
Obviously sad to lose Garrow.
Revenge!
Yes. I know what you're going to say, I think, about how you felt about it, but tell me anyway.
I loved it. I love
Yes.
every second of it. I love the sword play. We have a saddle now. I love the theft. I love the bridge troll and taking him down.
I was not expecting that. You caught me by surprise.
Because Eragon, the saddle is a means to an end, Jacqui.
Great.
It's a tool.
It's for the revenge.
It's for the revenge.
Amazing.
It's a revenge saddle. It's a revattle.
I
Yeah.
hate that.
Yeah, it's a revattle.
Is there a way in an audio medium to effectively roll your eyes so hard you pass out?
Maybe just say one of your patented yas.
Yeah.
There it is. But I also like the Eragon Wick old Brom combo. I love the Rozak don't seem like little wimps. There's actually stakes now.
Yeah.
People are dead. Magic is expanding. I'm locked in. I'm hooked.
Eragon Wick. Film School Dane really showed up today with all these references. Jesus.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll cut it off so we don't have to hear about it anymore. And
Yay.
yeah, okay. Well, we're gonna move on.
You do love to just move it right along.
Yep. And that's it for this episode. Make sure to rate and review, especially on Apple Podcasts, and check out our social media at Is This Just Fantasy Pod on TikTok or at Just Fantasy Pod on Insta and Twitter.
Easy for you to say. You actually are really good at that. I cannot
Thanks.
believe it. But if you would like to keep pace and read along with us for our next episode, we're going to be covering chapter 18, Revelation at Yazuak, through chapter 23, A Song for the Road. It sounds nice. I wonder if it'll be nice, Dane.
I bet it'll be fine.
Everything's always fine, right?
That's gonna
Fantasy. We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. Come on and listen to us next time. Find out what our deep dive will be. Thanks for catching our show.
Thank you for coming today, everybody. Before we begin, I have been asked to make an announcement by Sloan at the butcher shop, all the meats that you can eats, to see if anyone has accidentally taken any of his wares. He seems to have misplaced a bundle of meats sometime after that crazy old storyteller Brom went missing. Nothing weird about Brom, right, guys? Nothing strange about him. Anyway, Garrow would have loved how many of you have turned out to honor his life. He was a simple man, a stick-like man. I remember the first time I met Garrow and gazed into that hungry face and his intense eyes, which ever so lightly peeked out from his gray hair.
And the way he chewed with deliberate slowness before uttering one dry word. Why? Why take this treasure from us?
Who could forget his hatred of charity? Or how irritable he would get after his adopted son nephew was gone for 3 days alone in the wild and showed up with meats not of his own hunting
Well,
skill.
it's irritating. Garrow had a point.
Garrow, you supported a sister who abandoned you to a hard life despite her obvious riches. Raised a kid that was not your own without even a thank you, and kept it together for both that child and your own stronger and more beautiful son after your wife died. By all accounts, you grew the most tasty beans and rutabagas. You never let your 2 boys go to the festival without giving them some money you set aside for tasty treats. And even though that meant you had no money for new clothes and had to keep wearing the ones that hung on you like rags on a stick frame, you were there.
Christopher Paolini, you did Garrow dirty.
So dirty.
The way you wrote him, as this eulogy has been comprised of direct quotes from the text. But somehow he died even dirtier.
So bad.
Under the ashes of his home, covered in wounds, secreting pus. Farewell, Garrow. We hardly knew ye.
Sleep well, my sweet prince.